Why do we have highest inflation in 40 years? Why are people like you get worried? And what do interest rates have to do with this? Inflation occurs when there is more money in the economy than stuff to spend it on. Now imagine a town that has one supermarket where people buy all their stuff, their food, their clothes. But one day, the government interferes because they are worried about the economy of this town. So they tell the people that if they want to have more money to buy more stuff to upgrade their lives, government will make sure that the banks are willing and ready to lend them money, but will not charge them high interest rates. And to top it off, they also send in swarms of helicopters to drop off a giant pile of cash for everyone in the town. And everyone in the town is like very sus. But never mind, they just ignore that and be like, awesome, I'm feeling rich. Townsfolk now are going to their market and they are buying way more stuff that they don't even need or can't even afford in the past. Like everyone's getting themselves a Bugatti and everyone now enjoys asking everyone around them, what's the color of your Bugatti? The supermarket boss is like, sweet, this is great for business, but he's running out of Bugattis. In fact, he's running out of everything because now all of these people have extra money and they are buying way more than they used to. It reaches a breaking point where the supermarket boss eventually be like, crap, I can't keep up with all this demand, I should raise prices. And that is inflation. In this analogy, the town is all of us and the market is the entire economy. When there's extra money going around and people want to spend it faster than businesses can make stuff, then all businesses in every industry imaginable raise their prices. It's just a natural part of the economy. Now, it is a good thing in small doses, because it means that the economy is growing, and it is why movie tickets used to be 12 ringgit in 2010 and now they are like 24 ringgit in 2023. Now let's go back to the town analogy and see what happens if things continue at this rate. The supermarket boss has now doubled his prices on the Bugattis. The interest rate is super low, so he takes out a loan to build a new factory to make Bugattis. Now the government money eventually dries out and his prices are still double. But now the supermarket boss has no customers to buy all his new Bugattis fresh from the oven. To stop losing money and to survive, he has to shut down the factory, retrench everyone, his workers, and start lowering his prices. Here comes the dreaded recession. When the 2020 pandemic shut down the world, governments gave us free money, no strings attached. They are like, do not hoard all your money, instead spend and borrow and keep the economy going. Hand out subsidies, trillions and trillions of stimulus money going around. This was necessary to people who are jobless due to the pandemic. But even people who did not lose their job got free money, so they find stuff to spend that money on. As a result, the demand for stuff goes up the roof. People are going YOLO, buying new cars, real estate properties, or whatever. The fact that the pandemic also make it harder for factories and the ships and the retailers to make this stuff actually make inflation worse. Here's why. Now people have way more money than normal and they are ready to spend it, but the economy can't get them stuff fast enough. So what do businesses do with all this crazy spike in demand? They raise prices all at the same time, triggering inflation that is actually caused by people like you and me. And what do interest rates have to do with all this? Well, most countries have a central bank, the puppet master of the economy, the banks of all banks for that country. But it's not like a normal bank that stores your money and then lends it out and collects interest to make a profit. That's what a normal private commercial bank does. The central bank, the Fed in the US and Bank Negara in Malaysia, the job is to set the rules or policies that all other commercial banks have to follow. Now mind you, central banks are not motivated by profit, but rather their job is somewhat of a tri-mandate, that is to look after the economy with tender loving care, to keep it growing, to make sure people have jobs, to make sure that the prices don't fluctuate too much so that we can keep growing nicely. No slowdown, no recession, achieving a balance. That is what central banks do. But seriously, central bank is like a puppet master and we are the puppets. It's pretty scary, isn't it? They pull strings in the economy to control our spending behavior, which in turn affects how much businesses raise or drop their prices. And you know what? It totally works. One of the strings that they have to pull in the economy is called the interest rate. Want to borrow money to buy a car, a house, or expand your business? You're going to be way more likely to do that if you only have to pay a 3% interest on the loan that you take as opposed to a 10% per per year interest. Lower interest rates make people and businesses want to borrow and spend money. So during the pandemic, the central bank was like, we need everyone to spend money so the economy does not come to a complete stop or standstill. So they lower the interest rate to stimulate the economy. And we are puppets, started to borrow more money at low interest rate to spend on stuff. Once again, we are in the same place where there is now too much money to borrow, to spend, and not enough goods and services to spend it on. So what do businesses do? They raise prices to meet all this new demand all at the same time. And now that your money is worth less, and that is also inflation, that means your 100 ringgit note is now worth 10% less than it was last year. The note look the same, feel the same though, but the same money is worth less because your purchasing power just got diluted. Inflation will always be silently robbing you. It's just a matter of slow and steady or fast and furious. And that is when people start to freak out and our economy that's built on human psychology starts to get shaky before falling into a recession or a depression, even if it gets bad, which is what central banks around the world want to avoid. So central banks say, oops, printed too much money. Let's get back to tightening the strings on raising interest rate to try and curb rising inflation. Now, in other words, they are trying to cool down all of this hardcore spending and borrowing. See if they can steer the ship back on course. Do this gently because they are walking on thin ice. There are signs that things are starting to break with banks collapsing already. Going forward, one or more of these could possibly happen. First, hyperinflation. Rate of inflation often exceeding 50% per month, like this in Turkey. I'm not kidding. Due to excessive money printing, zero confidence in the economy, or political instability, or a decrease in supply of goods and services. People rush to spend their money before it loses more value, driving prices even higher. Second, stagflation happens when the economy is growing like a snail or even shrinking in terms of low or negative GDP growth. And to add oil to fire comes with high inflation at the same time, caused by supply shortage that leads to a sudden rise in the cost of manufacturing goods or delivering services. It could also be due to a rise in oil prices or decrease in consumer demand caused by recession and high unemployment. Stagflation can be very challenging to solve because traditional economic policies used to combat inflation or to stimulate growth may have limited impact or worse, have conflicting effects on each other. Third, disinflation is when the rate of inflation slows down but prices continue to rise, although at a slower pace. For example, inflation is 5% in 1 year and then drops to 3% in the next year. Real case scenario is look at US inflation. It is not the same as deflation, which refers to a sustained decrease in general price of goods and services in the economy. Watch the next video, the real money game all governments are playing.